So, when you saw the film, I'm curious, you didn't get a lot of plays out of the quarterback position last night against a defense that had been giving up a lot of plays. What did you see from Jordan Love that you felt good about watching the film?
Yeah, there were certainly some plays that he made where it's exactly how it should look in terms of the rhythm, the timing, being able to progress. I thought there was a sequence where he hit Devontae on the left side, and then the next play he hit MVS on the right side, where he actually worked to his third read. And so, but I think with any young player, in particular at that position, there's going to be some highs and lows. That's just the way it is. Just look around the league. A lot of the young quarterbacks, there are some inconsistencies. Now, what I was disappointed with was just situationally when they were coming after us on third downs. I was disappointed with myself in terms of not having a better protection plan for him, because what he did and the hits he took, and for him not to panic and not to flinch, and when it can get frustrating when you go time and time again, you have no points to show for it. I didn't feel him get down at all. The moment wasn't too big for him. I thought he showed a great resiliency, and that's stuff that you can't coach. We can coach a lot of the other things. We can coach the footwork. We can coach the mechanics of the position. We can coach him on some of the protection issues. That was a interesting matchup, I would say, in terms of just the amount of different looks that they will give you and the amount of pressure that they'll throw at you. And unfortunately, if you don't make a defense pay when they're bringing pressure, they're going to continue to do that. And that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, we didn't have success against the blitz until the final drive, really, as when you look at it. And so I think, but that, again, I put that responsibility on us as coaches, on myself as a play caller, to make sure that we help our players out in those situations.
Do you have any chances to beat the blitz earlier than that, or he just didn't have time to kind of recognize or see things develop the way he wanted? Or?
Well, yeah, and it's all predicated on the plays that are called in terms of the timing of them. Certainly, again, I think we could. There's definitely mechanisms that we have in our offense that we can use to help just give us a stitch more of time to maybe be able to set your feet so you're not throwing off balance and trying to make some of those throws. And then, there were other times where they brought pressure where we should have been picked up, but we're cutting people loose or we're not blocking a certain guy. And I mean, that all gets compounded, and unfortunately it gets put back on the quarterback. But I thought, just in terms of the resiliency, never feeling panicked, I thought that was a pretty good display of that.
The accuracy, there seemed to be throws that he was able to set his feet and just missed it. Is that something you can coach as well to improve?
Well, there were a couple throws early on as well where I know, like, we threw high on a screen. Well, when you look at it, Frank Clark coming off the edge, he timed up the snap, and he's right in his face. So you have to put it in a place where only your guy catches it or nobody. So you don't want that ball to get batted. Yeah, certainly are there some throws that we feel like he can make a little bit better or more accurately? Absolutely. But I also thought there was a lot of, plays in particular that he made where he showed great accuracy. So, again, it's one of those things. I think anytime you go into a game like that, in that type of atmosphere, you need all 10 guys around him to play at a high level. You need us as coaches to put him in position to go out there and play at a high level. And I think there's going to be, probably some negativity that gets unfairly cast on him that falls on all of us.
Matt, you talk about his demeanor and the way he carried himself through that. Where do you think that comes from with him? Is that just something he naturally has? Is that something you've seen in your couple of years with him that's developed with him, or what you view there?
Yeah, I just think that's who he is as a person, and he's been playing this game for a long time, and you know, he's a very even keel guy, and that's what you want. You want a guy that is not going to get too high or too low, and is just going to go out and play and take it one play at a time. And I just thought he showed just a great toughness to stand in there, because a lot of quarterbacks, when you're repeatedly getting hit, they're looking to get out of the pocket. And I didn't feel that from him. I think there was one play where they brought a pressure off the edge where AJ did a really good job picking up Matthew off the edge, where he might have got a little unsettled, understandably so. But I thought for the most part, you know, he did a nice job. And then, like I said earlier, there were plays where we're cutting guys loose, and they're right in his face as he's setting up. You know, it was on that acrobatic play that somehow, I don't know how, but he found Sadie's on. But he was able to get out of a lot of trouble there, and I don't recommend us throwing that ball like that. And sometimes, you know, it is the best play is just to play the next play, and you take a sack, because that definitely happened in another game last night where I saw a quarterback throw an interception. So, but I think it was a great learning experience. It was a learning experience for all of us involved in terms of what we need to do better as a staff to help prepare our players to go into an environment like that. Looking back on it, if you would have told me before the game that we were going to have 35 passes and 25 runs, I'd say that's probably not a good recipe for success. And that proved to be right. Like, that we shouldn't have put them in that position.
It's a go ahead. Address and get the special teams settled down.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we address everything. Anytime things don't go the way you want them to go, and you have mistakes, you're always addressing those. You're always correcting those. And, you know, we have to get it fixed. Certainly the operation on PAT field goal has got to be better. We have to do a better job of protecting to give us a chance to score some points. And then, you know, I think just in terms of our punt return game, you know, that's, again, you got a young returner back there, and I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody. We have to be better. We all know that. But, you know, those are learning experiences. If you can't field the ball, you got to call everybody off, because that costs us 3 points. You got to make sure if you fair catch a ball, you catch it. If you can't get to it, you have to call everybody off and let them know. And I think that was a situation where Amari thought he could get to it and wasn't able to. And the one thing I loved about just the whole that game was then he had another muff punt after that where he didn't get his feet set. And for him to go back out there and, again, show that resiliency to catch a punt and return it 15 yards, I think that speaks a lot to who he is as a man, as a football player, because that's not easy to do. I mean, everybody can see, especially when in that phase of the game when there's mistakes made, I mean, everybody can see it. But for him to get back out there and approach it with a mindset of, hey, we're going to play the next play, I thought that says a lot about Amari.
Was there any thought that sending someone else out there for that final punt return? Is Amari still going to be your punt returner, or is that open for competition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was my initial reaction. I went right over to Mo, and credit to Mo. Mo said no. He said, we need to stick with this guy. I mean, I know Mo will do what I ultimately tell him to do in that regard, but that's a credit to him for sticking up for Amari, and it's a credit to Amari for going out there and doing his job.
Back to the quarterback and protection issues. It's a copycat league, as everybody's always said. Do you anticipate that again next week, or is that, you think, quarterback dependent? That if Aaron's back there, you'll see less of that. I guess how do you view that?
Well, you're always going to see pressure, and you're right about it being a copycat league. And if you show that you have the inability to pick up some of these pressures, good chance you're going to see the same pressures over and over. And we realize that, we know that. There'll be a lot of work in that part of our game throughout the course of the week, so we don't put ourselves in those situations again.
Is that something that a quarterback can fix at the line as far as protection adjustments, or is that, I guess, I haven't seen a jailbreak like that since probably 2009, so what's kind of the root of that then?
Well, I mean, it's all predicated on what type of pressure they're bringing, what formation we're in. Certainly, we have tools within our offense that we can get to help pick up some of those pressures. But, you know, when you have 6 blockers and they're bringing 7, or you have 7 blockers and they're bringing 8, I mean, they've got you outnumbered. So you have to have something within your scheme, within the play design, to get the ball out of your hands in a timely fashion so that you can beat the blitz. And, you know, we just didn't have enough of that dialed up, and some of that, you know, it's tougher in the longer yardage situations that you get into. You want plays that will move the sticks, but at the same time, ultimately, it's about getting the ball out of your hand to give yourself an opportunity. I think that if you make them pay early in the game, you don't see that anymore. And I think that it was just one of those deals where they had success and they kept going back to it. And, you know, we thought there were some one-on-one opportunities that we could take advantage of down the field, and we didn't connect on those. And, you know, again, it just comes back to us as coaches, myself, making sure that we have a better plan for our guys moving forward.
Matt, you're my 5th coach I've covered going back to Holmgren, and I think you've said, it's on me, it starts with me, it's my fault more than the rest of them combined during my time covering this game. What I don't understand is, you knew who you were going to start, you knew the kind of defense you were going to face. So did you start like overthinking it and trying to like thinking about what their counter was going to be, the Jordan be? Because, you know, when I say you're a smart guy and you make a joke about it, you are a smart guy, and I'm surprised that you were so unhappy with your own performance in a game where you were trying to help Jordan as much as you could.
Yeah, you know, I do think that we had plays within the plan that absolutely could have handled some of the situations. You know, it's a credit to, you know, the Chiefs. You got to give them a lot of credit too. They dialed them up when we didn't have the right plays dialed. There were other times when we did have it dialed up, and we actually made them pay on a couple of them. Certainly the 4th down, we ran back-to-back sprint outs to Devontae, which I've never seen before, but it was there, and we took advantage of that. I think there was another situation where we got in a 1-by-3, and you know, we handed the ball off to Aaron Jones, and he squirted through, and he almost split 2 defenders, made him pay there, and then finally on the play to Allen for the 20-yard touchdown. You know, if you do that earlier in the game, then some of that stuff, we're not talking about it right now. But unfortunately, I didn't dial it up, and like I said earlier, I mean, that falls on me.
Matt, what did you see from Kevin in his first game back, and just how did you feel that secondary sort of handled, you know, losing Eric and still sort of coming together?
Yeah, I thought our defense as a whole played outstanding. I mean, I know they had, I mean, that's an explosive offense. We all know that. Outside of the first drive, our defense did as well as you'd ever expect anybody to do. I think anytime you hold an offense like that to 13 points, you should win the game. And, you know, obviously part of that was losing the turnover battle 2-0, but I thought our defense was flying around. I thought they were physical. I thought Kevin King covered really well. Certainly loved for him to finish the one mistake Mahomes made in terms of throwing it to him. But I thought he was physical. I thought he played outstanding, but I thought everybody out there played as good as you'd ever want them to play. I thought they did a great job of just handling that whole situation where we were really short-handed on defense anyways going into the game. We only had 21 guys defensively dressed, and now you're down to 20 before you even kick off. We had Dean Lowry on a pitch count. So now, you know, you get to about halftime, and he's pretty much out, and so now you're down to 19 guys, and for those guys to battle through, I thought they did an outstanding job. I thought Joe Barry, I thought the rest of our defensive coaches did just an unbelievable job.
Now, was this always the plan to play it safe this long with Dave, and do you guys still plan to activate him on Wednesday by the deadline?
Yeah, as far as that's what I'm hopeful for. But as far as whether or not he's available on Sunday, I think that's just something that, as you guys know, we'll give him the week to kind of figure that out. And we're hopeful, but again, we're going to make sure that the time's right for Dave, for us, for everybody involved.
So is there a chance that he might not be activated by the deadline?
I doubt that. I would doubt that. I have not had that specific conversation with Goody, but I doubt that.
How do you approach preparation this week? So you're going to have Jordan running the offense all week in practice. You're going to have Aaron on Zoom. How do you, without giving away the game plan that you're going to be working on tonight and tomorrow, do you put together a game plan, assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to be running it on Sunday, and have Jordan run it during the week? Do you have two parallel game plans? Have you ever done anything like this before?
I have never been through this situation, so it'll be a great learning experience for all of us in terms of how we communicate it, how we go out there and execute it. Certainly there could be a situation where we have some specific plays for either quarterback. But I would say by and large, when you're preparing both of them for the way you want to attack a certain defense. And it comes down, I think a lot of it comes down to situationally what you do in terms of like third down, red zone, just because Jordan hasn't had a lot of maybe the same experience with some of those plays as Aaron. So, but I think it'll be a healthy mix of, you always got to prepare for either guy to be available. So you got to have a healthy mix that they're both comfortable with.
So given how much you guys got done, not this past offseason, but the offseason before, via Zoom, does that help you and Nathaniel and Luke and Aaron have a good idea of just kind of the logistics? Or is it because it's a game week preparation as opposed to working on different aspects of the offense, does that not really help you?
No, I think it absolutely helps. Just making sure the communication's on point in terms of why we're calling what we're calling, what we're trying to attack, and how we want to best go out there and execute it. So he's always involved. He's a big part of our process in terms of how we game plan, and that won't change this week.
Is the bigger challenge, maybe obviously not Aaron, he can just go out there and play, but the other 10 guys around him doing and knowing what he wants out of plays when he's not able to practice that? How do you compensate for that during the week?
Yeah, I think that absolutely is a challenge, because I know there's times where he'll have conversations with certain receivers or whoever it may be about just how he anticipates maybe a certain route run. But I do think the communication will be crystal clear. We'll make sure that he's involved in everything we do. And, like I said, we've never been through this process before, but we'll get our feet wet for the first time.
Is there any thought to maybe restructuring your practice week to have some more stuff to do on Saturday with him?
Yeah, potentially. But it's more than just, it's about the entire team and making sure that our guys are fresh when we go out there and play. I don't think anybody's fresh at this point of the season, but as fresh as we can be and go out there and execute at a high level.
It's easy to see, for us people to see Chris Barnes making the splash plays, but what did you think of his totality of work yesterday? Yeah,
I thought Chris was outstanding. I thought he was physical, just did his job, was flying around. He and Dre did a great job communicating with one another and helping the other 9 guys on defense do their job. So I was super impressed with him. I thought that was his best game that he's played as a Packer. And I could say that for a lot of guys on defense.
I know that you've got your own stuff at quarterback to handle this week, but how do things change with Russell Wilson coming back?
Oh, yeah. He's a guy that is very, very tough to game plan for. Has got the ability to make crazy off-schedule plays, and, it is a little bit more comforting, I guess, in a sense that Joe's had a lot of experience going against him, being in LA. I'll have to check the success rate they had there, but no, he's a tough guy to game plan for, and we're going to have to be flying around on Sunday in order to try to contain him.
Do two more in here.
Have you heard anything updated on Eric Stokes?
Yeah, nothing that we're too concerned about as far as long term, but we'll see where he's at as we progress through the week.
Matt Jordan said after the game that him and Rodgers talked before the game, and Aaron Rodgers gave him some pretty good advice. And now you're two together heading into Week 10. Where have you seen their relationship grow the most?
That's a great question. I just think it's their interaction on a daily basis. I think that Aaron's done an outstanding job from day one, just kind of giving him nuggets all the time. And really, he didn't have to do it, but he definitely embraced him into that room and took him under his wing and has really tried to help him along the way. And I think Jordan is definitely appreciative of that. And I think they have a great relationship, really, that whole room. Kurt, we saw it last year with Tim Boyle. I just think that those guys are a close-knit group. They spend a lot of time together. There's great conversation. There's great banter within the room, just like you want it to be. And I think there's a real, genuine friendship there.
Is there any concern about Clark?
Kenny, not long-term, but again, as far as this week, I really don't know at this point.
Go to Zoom. Sarah, go ahead.
Just wondering, you're over halfway through the regular season now. What's the biggest thing you've kind of learned about this team over these last 9 games that you didn't really know going in?
Well, I think that we are a resilient team, and that's one thing you never quite know going into each year. And I know we have a lot of guys back and from previous years, but the one thing that these guys love to compete, and I think you see it. I was on Saturday. I heard a lot of commotion going on in the DB room, a lot of commotion, and I walked in there, and they're breaking up. They're having a competition, basically a quiz, corners versus safeties, and I mean it was competitive. It was spirited, but I think that it brings out their best, and I think that's one thing that I really appreciate about these guys. They come to work each and every day. I think our ability to perform, especially on the defensive side of the ball, we've gotten better and better and better, and we need to continue that, and really in all 3 phases. But there's a lot to like about this team in terms of just the adversity we faced. We've had a lot of different guys in and out of the lineup. We've had a lot of guys get some great experience out there, and I think that's going to pay dividends down the stretch.
And last one, Aaron Igler.
Coach, there's been a lot of talk about Jordan and the offensive struggles against pressure, but were you pleasantly surprised at how he played coming off the goal line? I mean, you guys were backed up pretty much the entire game. It seemed like he was at his best in those situations. Yeah, I think that's one of the most uncomfortable positions for a quarterback to be in, is when you're dropping back in the shadows of your own end zone. And he did a great job. We had basically a run-pass can on when he hit A.J. Dillon out of the end zone for an explosive gain, where we really wanted to run versus the 2 safety look, but they did a great job with their disguise. And the one thing we told them going into the game is you can't worry about being perfect. There's going to be times where they're gonna fool you, and they did a great job with their disguise on that one early on. We canned it, and he played the play out, and he got all the way again to his check down, his 3rd read and his progression. I thought the protection was great on that one. And then he was able to find AJ in the flat, and then even the other time we were backed up when he hit Devontae on the left side. So yeah, I think in those moments he absolutely went out there and executed and
played those plays to the best of his ability.